You all showed up with a smile on your face. That is a good start to the day. I'm going to probably go through this quick today. I put a lot of stuff in here for y'all as parents. I tell people I've had a storied career in education and I've done a lot of things, but today I'm coming to you as a fellow parent who's been lucky enough to do brain research around the world to see what we need to do to help our kids. So we're going to cover some things. I know today was supposed to be about social skills, and that's basically what it is. I tell parents, our children and we as adults and we as human beings, we only learn social skills by watching others and learning from role models. Direct instruction on social skills is almost pointless. You can talk to me and tell me what to do all you want, but if I go out in the world and see people do different, what do? I do the different. I tell people what we need our kids out there. The more we're in front of a screen, the more we're inside, the worse my social skills are gonna be. And I'm gonna share with you right now, in the United States, our school-age children are in front of screens the most in the world. Our school-age children are indoors the most in the world. Our children are now averaging 95% of their day indoors. They're only getting outside roughly 55 minutes per day is the average right now. And do you realize that for proper brain development from birth to age 9, they should be outside minimum 3.5 hours a day? And so I tell people, then we worry about social skills, but all I'm doing is this. And by the way, parents in here, even if you have adolescents at home who say they have a lot of friends online, the brain does not register any human being online as a friend or an acquaintance. So you can't but I got lots of friends online, so don't worry about me. Yeah, nope, doesn't count. Because I tell people, I'll find kids like that and I'll work with kids like that. And if I were to take them out in the middle of Walmart and drop them off, they would implode, which means you don't have social skills. And so I tell people what we're going to talk about today is what we as parents need to start doing more of, looking at things. I tell people, I'm going to give you things to think about as a parent. How it works for you in your life, I'm more than happy to help at some point. But a lot of it is just, I tell people, as a parent myself, I just had to figure it out. My background is I was a single dad and raised my own kids. They're now 31 and 29. But I had to figure a lot out too. I'm not gonna lie, I screwed some things up. I was not the best, most stellar parent in the world, but one thing I learned about being a parent is you do the best you can with what you know and where you're at. And so what I want to do with parents is give you things to think about, things to do at home, how to turn those screens off and get them outside, or to do different things around the house that help with brain development, but also with social, emotional, behavior, academics, all that stuff that we keep wanting better for our kids, right? So, without further ado, we'll get started. And so, it is all about the brain, and I tell people, we have a funny habit as human beings of we keep wanting to fix our problems by doing the same thing. Have you noticed that? We keep trying to fix problems by keep doing the same thing over and over again. Well, what's that the definition of?
Insanity.
That's insanity. And so what I'm going to share with you today are just some things for us to try to think about as parents. And things that we can consider doing a little more at home. And so the first one is puzzles. I will tell parents right now, this is a lot of new research is coming out on different types of puzzles we do at home with our kids. And I encourage educators, when I do educator training, I tell them, do these puzzles in your classroom. Hey, incorporate these into your lesson plans. But parents, these are puzzles. I will tell you right now, most of these puzzles I remember doing as a small child, sitting on the farm table with my grandfather before we go out and do chores at 5 o'clock in the morning. He had his coffee. I got Reader's Digest slid across the table to me to read. Anybody remember Reader's Digest? Laughter the best medicine and all the puzzles that were in there, and I just did them because we had a good time. And then they taught me board games, things like cribbage. Anybody in here know what cribbage is? Well, one person. And so it's interesting how those types of things we're coming back and looking at. These are great things for us to pick back up as parents. Turn our screens off and get this kind of stuff in their hands. So I'm going to show you the research behind puzzles and what they do for our kids too. So first one is brain teasers. What I did is, you guys will get a copy, you already have a copy of all of this. If you want more information, I can give it to you, but what I've decided to do for parents is, this is what, if you do brain teasers with your kiddos, here are all the things that it affects for our kids. Just by having some fun and doing brain teasers at home, just do a couple a day, just have some fun with them. And here's what we get. We get problem solving, critical thinking, cognitive flexibility. Actually, all these things right here are called executive functions. Have you ever heard that term? Executive functions are what actually make us good at life as we get older. And so just doing brain teasers hits all those areas of executive functioning that our kids are going to need as they get older. And so we're going to just have some fun and do a few. So see if we can figure these out. I don't think the answers are in there, so. I know
They're
some
not.
really like, what's the answer? You got the, nope, I didn't put the answers in for you. 5-letter word, it becomes shorter when you add 2 letters to it.
Who knows it?
Anybody?
She has it.
What is it? Short. Yeah, short. You add 2 letters, it's shorter. Oh. All right, next one. This is one of my favorites. I have yet to have someone figure this one out. Anybody got to figure it out?
I do love the concentration, though.
I know. I love watching
like-
a whole room of adults focused on a brain teaser.
Almost like a palindrome with one letter extra.
You were right. It's like a palindrome. So what happens is if you take the first letter of each word and put it at the end, you spell the same word backwards.
You got it right. Woohoo!
Nice work. I'm going to shake your hand. You're literally the first human being to got it.
Hey.
First one in a year. Beautiful. All right, next one. I like this one. Who's bigger? Mr. Bigger, Mrs. Bigger, or their baby? It's their baby because it's a little bigger.
That's what you said. I heard her say it. Yeah.
Oh, I love when people don't get them. They give me, I don't like you. All right. So, parents in here, I brought a sponsor today, and this sponsor guarantees a lot of things for our kids. So, if you just want to go to the next slide for me, please.
Yep.
The sponsor today guarantees this. It seems like a lot, but basically what it is the sponsor guarantees brain health, brain strengthening, brain maintenance, a lot of things that our kids need to have in order to keep going with life. The sponsor guarantees just bigger gains in all these areas for our children's brains. Does that sound pretty good?
Yes.
And I will tell you through the research I've done in life, this sponsor, it does do this exactly. And so here's our sponsor. Play. The more your child plays, the better their academic and behavior outcomes for the rest of their life will be. You're going to find some new research we got coming out today. And so today's sponsor is all about play. The more I play, the better my social skills. The more I play, the better my academic outcomes. The more I play, the better my behavior and social emotional outcomes are. But I have to play. We're in a weird place in the United States. We're one of the only countries that focuses so heavy on education once they hit school, we forget that they should play. Guys go, no, you need straight A's. I hate to break it to parents, just so you know, straight A students are not usually the smartest people in a school. Warehousing knowledge to put it out on a test does not make you a smart human being. What makes you a smart human being is how you maneuver and use that knowledge later on in your life to make a life for yourself and to be nice to people. Being nice to other human beings makes you smart also. And so I tell people it's interesting how we've defined it with our kids. I tell parents, I never pushed grades on my kids. My kids never got me the bumper sticker for my car. But my kids are good neighbors to people right now, and they take care of other human beings and they live a good life. And that's what we want. And I tell you, it's okay. And so, if you go to the next slide, here's one of the latest pieces of research that I thought all parents should know. The best predictor of your child's behavior and social emotional outcomes is actually how much they played from birth to 6. So from birth to 6 years old, how much your child plays is going to predict their behavior and social emotional outcomes. The more they play, the better their behavior, the better their social emotional outcomes. Play, 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 play. And I tell parents it doesn't involve a screen. It involves outside, it involves you, it involves screens. Some cool research in autism just came out. To really realize that we should be going into homes and helping parents with kids with autism how to interact and play with their children. That should be the #1 therapy. play therapy and therapy that allows parents and teaches parents how to play with their kid with autism is actually showing that it builds the connection with that family, so that family connection becomes stronger. But the byproduct of that is also parents' depression rates are going way down also, just by teaching them how to play with their children with autism. Isn't that cool? When I did in-home training for our families with autism, we went in and we just played games the whole time. I went in and we just did things through playing games. And now we have the research behind it, which is really cool. So, this is what play gets us. All of these things. Play automatically equals better learning and better academics. The more your child plays, the better their academics will be. And by the way, just so you know, let's put it in perspective of all of us human beings. Birth to 6 plays the most important thing for brain development. End of story. It is the most important by a mile. 6 to 19, play is the most important thing for brain strengthening. Getting the synapses on board, getting all the dendrites out there, getting all the things in place we need to do. Play from 19 till the day we die is one of the most important things for brain maintenance. So we as adults in this room need to play and keep playing and have fun and enjoy ourselves. And so those are the things we need to look at. And so it is time for us to play. I know. Thought you were just going to sit here all morning, didn't you? So, go to the next one. And so, if you just want to go to the next one, we're going to do a game. And so what I would like for all of my parents in the room to do is everybody stand up. I want you to get yourselves into a group of 4 or 5. So try and make new friends. Don't be shy, because this is about social skills. And this is how play helps us with social skills. And so get into a group of 4 or 5 and make a little circle.
And y'all can come up here.
Yeah, y'all can come out
Yeah,
front.
y'all can come
yeah,
up
you can
here.
be my volunteer group.
Oh, yes, y'all
Oh,
come
yeah,
up
you
here.
come up here.
Sorry.
All right, so parents, here we go. I got my little volunteer group up here. You ready? I need you to finish the sentence. See who knows what we're going to play. 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare.
A thumb war.
Thumb war. So my volunteer group, come on into the circle.
Okay.
Everybody raise your right hand. Put it in the middle of the circle, and you're going to hook in all together for a big thumb war. All right, so I'll let you all take that. All right, now count you down. Yep, hook in. There you go. All right, I'm going to count you down. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. Go. First person to pin a thumb wins. All right, everybody, look at the volunteer group. You're not done recess yet. All right, so put your right hand back in, hook in. All right, parents, you all have a free hand. Hook in up here. Oh, a 2-layer thumb war. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. Go.
Oh, Missy's coming for you now.
But everybody can do this at home.
All right, y'all can have a seat. Recess is over. So, you can go ahead to the next slide.
Okay.
So, parents, what I'd like to cover today real quick is playing is important. I just had a whole group of adults start smiling at each other. Some of you were strangers until you played thumb war together. Some of you didn't even know what thumb war was. You had to be taught. But people taught you and talked about it. That's how social interaction works. That's how I get better with social skills. I always tell people my pet peeve in the autism world that I've lived for 32 years is we take a bunch of people with autism, y'all have autism, come with me to a separate room, I'll teach you social skills, and then dump you back into the world. It's like doing AA in a bar. Like, stop. If I'm an 8-year-old with autism, or I'm an 8-year-old with poor social skills, I need to be around other 8-year-olds, because they're my role models. You're 38, you're 48, you don't have a clue what an 8-year-old does anymore. You've probably forgotten. I need to learn from the age group I'm in. And I tell people it's interesting how we've done this. We segregate kids out to teach them social skills. Well, social skills are social. And so playing games is one of them. So it's not the content. I tell parents this. Parents, what we need to understand is as we sit here today, also, something else about our kiddos in the United States. Right now, as we sit here in the United States, our children, our school-age children, have some of the weakest brains we've known in human evolution in a couple of 100 years. There are three big factors. There's a lot of factors in our country that are affecting our kids' brains, but there's three big ones. And the ones that are taking the heaviest hit to our children's brains, one of them we're probably not going to like. The number one factor, though, that's affecting our kids' brains in the United States is what? What's the number one heavy hitter to our children's brains? Screens. Technology. And I'm going to tell you right now, I love technology. I love what technology could be doing for our kids, but we are abusing it to no end in this country. Like no end. And I'm going to be honest with you, our schools are one of the main culprits too. And we got to get a handle on it. Because our kids should not be in front of screens in a school. They should be in front of a teacher, because we have to learn from a human being. And now at home, we should be in front of our parents, not a screen also. And so I tell people it's interesting. So technology is the number one. Number two is the one that we have to kind of breathe a little bit on. Number two starts with a P and ends in parenting. Parenting. You realize we are being researched as a country on how not to raise children. Have you not noticed parenting lately? I tell people it's the reality. I'm a parent and I go work with parents. And we have some issues in our country. We have three major types of parenting that's going on in our country right now. All three are actually detrimental to our children's growth and development. We as parents have a hard job, do we not? And we as parents have to find the balance in our lives, do we not? And it's hard, I'm not gonna lie. There were days that I would shove a movie into the VCR. Anybody remember what those are? And I was like, I told my own kids, you gotta get out of my face because I am done. But there are also days where I protect them. There's also days where they got to go and explore on their own, and sometimes they skinned their knees, and sometimes they got hurt. But as a parent, I stood next to them and taught them how to get back up. And I tell people we got to start looking at it because we do have some parenting issues that we need to take care of. I am not saying by any means anyone in here has those parenting styles, but we're going to talk about the three main parenting styles in the United States, and it does have a detrimental impact on our children's mental health and their social. And so now what we're going to do is, because we have these weaker brains, something else about our country too, the number three heavy hitter for our kids is lack of outside, lack of exercise, poor diet. And so you roll those big three in, a lot of other factors come into play, and we got some kiddos that are struggling in our country right now. And so we can help and take care of a lot of this stuff. Several years back, I got to go do brain research inside our schools in Canada. I went back home to Canada, got to do some brain research inside the schools, and we figured out some of the things that can make our kids' brains stronger. We want our kids to have strong brains. The stronger my brain, the better I can intake stuff, process stuff, and live a good life. And so if our children's brains are a bit weaker than they need to be, we need to bring them back up. But the only way to make my brain stronger isn't academics. I hate to break it to you. When my brain is weak, dumping more academics in there bogs it down. A strong brain is a thinking brain, not a warehousing information brain. And to get our brains back to thinking is we got to work them out. And working our brains out is actually pretty easy. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you a few ways to do it at home. I have a starter kit that you guys can take. I'll send it along. There's about 50 activities. But I'm going to show you 3 of them real quick. You ready? I'm going to take your brains to the gym. I want you to hold out your right hand, point with your index finger. Rotate your index finger clockwise. As you're rotating your index finger clockwise, try rotating your wrist counterclockwise. All right, try another one. Ready? Roll your neck in any direction. As you're rolling your neck in any direction, roll your tongue inside your mouth in the opposite direction. Some of you look at catching snowflakes. I like that one. All right, last one is one of my favorites. If I'll just stand up real quick. If your balance isn't very good, take your left hand, touch a table or touch a chair. And what I want you to put your right foot in front of you. On the floor in front of you with your right foot, make a circle clockwise. As you're making that circle clockwise, hold out your right hand. Point with your index finger. Draw a big number 6 in the air. There you go. Y'all have a seat. If I could scan your brain right now, it'd be lit up like a Christmas tree. So, let me go to the next one, please. All right, so this is something new for all of us too, and I bring this to all of my trainings now. There's something new out in the world. You can go to the next slide. It's called cognitive reserve. Have you ever heard of this yet? So cognitive reserve is interesting. How many of you are bilingual? How many of you speak more than one language? Wow. Okay, keep your hands up because I need to see this. Everyone who has their hand up who is bilingual, you officially have the strongest brains that exist on the planet. Bilingual brains are the strongest brains by a mile on this planet. Do you want to know the second strongest brain? The autistic brain. Oh yeah, the autistic brain is fascinating. One of the coolest brains that walks the planet. We just don't give it its props. And so I tell people, bilingual brains, by the way, if you have a bilingual brain, your brain has a cognitive reserve like no other. Because every time you think, speak, hear, listen, process anything, it's done in all the languages you know simultaneously for every second of your life. That means your brain is at the gym every second of your life. Which means the more you're at the gym, you build up this savings account in your brain. It's called the cognitive reserve. Bilingual, multilingual brains will ward off dementia and Alzheimer's up to 7 years longer than a monolingual brain. You will recover from strokes and brain damage quicker and with better results than a monolingual brain. Because what happens is this cognitive reserve or the savings account is built up. God forbid something happens to your brain, it pulls from the savings account first before it actually comes after you. Now, good news is because they've researched this brain so much, they found out we can all build up our savings account, whether we're bilingual or not. However, those of us that are monolingual have to work extra hard at it. Those of us who are monolingual have to do a few more things, but I show this because this is important for your children. Think about it. You start these activities, you start doing these things on a regular basis with your children today. By the time they get into old age, their reserve is going to be great. Probably better than we've ever had. You start today, no matter your age, you start today, you can start adding to your savings account too, so that God forbid something happens, it gets pulled from, or it's like a protective barrier for you first. And so, if you want to go to the next one after that. Here are the things that, this isn't an exhaustive list. These are just some of the bigger ones that you get more bang for your buck from. And what I tell people is they got to be done in concert, which means they got to be done as many of these every day as possible, every day, as many of them. And so I'll just let you take a look at them. But parents in here, guess which one is the best for not just your children's brains, but for your brains? If there's one up here that I would say you pick and start immediately, which one do you think it is?
Sleep.
It's not sleep. I mean, sleep is important. Do not get me wrong. These are all really, really, really important. However, there is one in here that stands out more than others.
Exercise regularly.
Exercise? That's important, but
Reading books.
Music. Ladies and gentlemen, music is the only thing on the planet that we know of that when the human brain is involved in music, all 100% of your brain is activated. Playing instruments, listening to it, dancing and moving to it, music, 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 music. As much as you can get in there with your kids. Parents, when your children are young, before they get to be about 5th or 6th grade, as many genres of music you can get them to listen to, you do it. Even if they hate it, listen to it. I don't like opera. Too bad. Turn it up. You listen and have them listen to as many types of music as you can because the brainwave patterns are affected, but they also start to figure out what music brings what feelings to my body. But by the time they're around middle school, they're going to decide what music works best for them in instances of their life. And it's usually not what we like. I'm not going to lie. My son liked the screaming metal stuff. Oh. That was taxing. But if I needed him to do work, he would do it. And so I tell people music is awesome, but all of these are fantastic. I tell people this is what we need to do to help our kids build up that reserve and us. And anyone you love and anybody you care about, let them know. As many of these things every day as you can and start building up that savings account for yourself. So, it's another puzzle, so here we go. Visual puzzles. I love these. Parents, I will tell you, not that I support any type of program or not, but if you want a good magazine to have at home for your kids, it's called Highlights. You ever hear of it? Oh, Highlights magazine is fantastic. And one of my favorite types of puzzles and highlights were their visual puzzles. So if you want to go to the next one, visual puzzles are awesome for reading and literacy too. You want to help your kiddo with reading skills and literacy skills? Visual puzzles are awesome for it because of what they do to help our brain slow down. So I'm just going to show you one real quick. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. Can you spot 1 snail, 3 worms, 2 bees, 1 mushroom, and a sprout with only 1 leaf? You're only going to get about 20 seconds, so I hope you're quick. I'm not going to lie, the one I had the hardest time with was the mushroom.
I found it.
Of course, see, the one I had the hardest time. So, visual puzzles like this, Where's Waldo, all those hidden picture puzzles are fantastic for our kids to do at home. Have fun with them too. So we talk about the big 3. We're not going to spend a lot of time on these. And so if you just want to go to the next slide. Yeah. These are the big 3. And you can keep going. Okay. And I tell people, technology is neither good nor bad. It is how we're using it. I'm going to cover some quick things on technology. By the way, parents, technology can have a huge impact on all these areas. It can be negative or positive. It depends on how we use it. Right now, what we're seeing is more negative impacts because of the amount our kids are in front of technology. But if we pared back and started using it more as a tool rather than a toy, you're going to see that it can have an impact on the positive side of things too. And so, one thing I will tell parents, the latest stuff on technology, this was actually my first round of brain research about 15, 20 years ago. We started looking at what is the impact of all this new technology coming out on our kids' brains. The world was not ready for what we found out about 15 years ago. I got blackballed from a lot of places because I was telling people we gotta pull back. No, it's making life so much better. No, you gotta stop, especially with our children. And now we're 20 years into this and it's like, whoo, here we are. So parents, just so you know, screen time is becoming as addictive as cocaine and heroin to children's brains. Let that sink in for just a second. Screen time is becoming as addictive as cocaine and heroin. And I tell people, I've been telling our school districts, if we know it's this addicting, why do we keep increasing it? Would you go give crack to a crack addict? Think about it. It is addicting. It is massively addicting. It's also called a psychological addiction, not a substance addiction. Psychological addictions are harder to kick. And so I tell people, it doesn't mean we cut them cold turkey. It means we just start working on paring it back a little bit. You want a quick piece of advice, parent to parent? You know how I did it with my kids? I was ahead of this weird tech curve. You poor people are neck deep in this weird tech curve where they're just surrounded by it. And my parents nowadays, your kids are just inundated with it. And for you to protect them from it is probably almost impossible some days. But what we had at home was, for every minute you're on a screen, you owe me a minute outside. So if my son wanted to binge his Xbox game for 3 hours, you don't get to go back to Xbox until you're outside for at least 3 hours. And so that was how the hard and fast rule I had at my house with my kids. Sometimes they didn't like it. I'd say, yeah, but you stayed on your game for 3 hours. I didn't tell you to. That was your decision. Now you owe on the back end. So it turns it over to them. When they get mad at you, it's like, whoa, wait, I didn't tell you to be on your phone that long. You decided that. You know the rules going in. You made that choice. Now you got to follow through. Now think about what that teaches them. You'll find your kids will start self-regulating themselves a little better with their technology when you do that. And again, social skills become better. And so, anger, social issues, I'll just jump down to recommended rates because I know we're halfway through this today. Recommended rates for screen time, parents. This is what the recommended rates are. We are nowhere near that in the United States, but we can surely try and make a dent in it. Birth to 3, 0. 3 to 6, no more than 1 hour per day. 6 to the day we die, which is all of us. No more than 2 hours per day is a recommended rate. The national average for school-age children right now in the United States is almost 8 hours per day. So I'll ask you parents, I know it's hard. It is probably the biggest battle a lot of families are dealing with right now. I have an addiction scale and things to look for in your kids. I don't have time today, but if you're interested, I can send it your way. However, little bit at a time. You cut them cold turkey, life's gonna be miserable for you for a long time, because they go through withdrawal symptoms similar to what a crack addict goes through when they're taking off a crack. So you reduce it a little bit at a time. Make chores. Hey, you go do the dishes, you can come back to your iPad. You split me off of it for a little bit, I know I'm gonna get back to it, here I come. And so do different things like that to help them out. Hey, you need to go talk to your friends, go play with your friends outside before you play with your friends online. Because they have to have that human connection. I will tell you right now, when you go to the grocery store, Walmart, Target, guess what? It's the reason why social skills are in the tubes for our kids, because every time I go to Walmart, Target, grocery store, or out in public, and a screen goes in front of my face, what don't I learn? I learned 0 social skills. 0. None. Restaurants are the worst. It hurts my soul when I sit in a restaurant and I see a whole family looking at their phones. Talk to each other. Tell kids about what you see around, what you're looking at. That's how I learn about the social world and how things work. Show me people who aren't acting right. Talk about that while we don't act that way. Show me people who are acting the right way. That's how we want to act when we're out there. Look how nice they are to each other. Look at how they talk. Those are the things that teach our kids how to be social. And so I tell people those are important parts. Put the cell phones away, put the tablets away, and engage. Parents in here, just so you know, when you brought your little one home from the hospital and you signed all that paperwork to get him home, you're so happy you're a parent finally. What you didn't realize is at the bottom one of those pieces of paper in the finest print ever that you missed, it says, your child will embarrass you in public. I, as your child, when you take me to Walmart or Target or somewhere out in the world, I'm gonna have problems and I will embarrass you. But it is our job as parents to deal with it while we're there, because then I know that this isn't allowed here. If I'm always negated and I'm always distracted by a screen, what don't I ever learn? How to behave in that situation. The autism world is the worst at this, I'm not gonna lie. We're so busy trying to negate their behaviors and hide their behaviors that they never actually learn that if I do this behavior out in public, that's wrong. I just learned that I get a phone or I get a tablet, is what I'm seeing. It's interesting how that works. I tell people, my daughter was notorious for walleye fits in the middle of public. And all I could ever say to her is, you better get it out here because I'm not bringing this home. And I know the rest of public stares at us, right? Like, do what I do. Keep shopping or stay in hell, but do something. Because it is. It's about how we learn. Most people who give you that side eye when they walk by, when your kids are struggling in the world, probably don't have kids yet. You just tell them, just wait, your turn's coming. Because it's what we do. So technology, we'll move on from there. I'm gonna buy, puzzles. So this is I think these are my favorite puzzles.
Yes, I love.
Oh, are they the Rebus puzzles?
Yes.
Yes, I love Rebus puzzles. So parents, Rebus puzzles are amazing for all of these things. Language skills, especially language skills. They help my language skills like no other, because I have to know certain things about language in order to solve them. And so we're going to do a few real quick. You just want to go to the next one?
Shout them out when you know them.
Yeah, just shout it out.
Overseas travel.
Reverse it. Travel
overseas.
overseas. Yes.
Nice.
Oh.
Okay, y'all ready?
All right, next one.
One in a million.
One in a million. I
Yes.
before E except after C. That's only right 50% of the time. No U-turn. Oh. All right, so as I tell parents, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. These are just the different types of parenting styles, but my favorite quote is, I'm not the cool parent. I'm going to make you a good human being parent. And so distracted, disengaged parenting is actually one of the bigger parenting styles that's been coming up in the United States. That's where we're too busy with life, we're too busy with our phones, we're too busy being distracted with everything that we miss opportunity with our kids. Parents, it's not necessarily the quantity, it's the quality. When you got 5 good seconds with your kid, make it 5 good seconds with your kids. And please stop asking them, what did you do at school today? You already know the answer they're going to throw at you. What are they going to tell you? Nothing. Why do you ask it every day? Think about you. You've been working at your job for the last 12 hours. You've had a long shift. You show up. It's like, how was work today? Get up. And you're like, leave me alone. So I tell parents, find something else. Talk about their favorite toy, their favorite video game. Engage them in something other than how was school today? Or what did you learn? That's even a worse one to say. What did you learn? And they're like, to avoid you when I come home, so you're not asking me that question anymore. So I tell people it's interesting. Parents, what you need to know about this is we've got some brain research on it. The 2-month-old thing. We call this the shopping cart syndrome. It is what we see when we take our kids to the store, you put them in the cart, and you put a phone or something in front of their face. Here's what we need to understand. Parents, I wish I'd have known more about this when I was bringing my kids up. I was not distracted much, though there were days I wished I was more distracted. But I tell parents, what we now know is at 2 months old, there's a switch that gets flipped around age 2 months in our children's brains. Around age 2 months old, there's a switch in my brain that flips, and it goes from trying to figure out how to get my diaper changed, how to get you to feed me, how to get you to take care of me, to now got to figure out what rules and boundaries do I adhere to in life at 2 months old. So I'm a dad, I'm feeding my 2-month-old son on the couch with a bottle, but what I'm doing instead of interacting with him, I'm doom scrolling. Or I'm watching TV instead of interacting with my son. At 2 months old, that little brain is looking at me and recognizes that I'm distracted. And at 2 months old, it starts to generate its own rules to live by for the rest of its life. 2 months. Fast forward to I go to kindergarten, and I have a teacher who has to tell me what to do. But for the last 4 years, if my parents have been distracted, I'm making my own rules. It might also be parents, I hate to break it to you, sometimes I'm working with parents who are like, my child's 4 and 5 and they can't, like they're tearing our house apart. They might be because now that you're finally going to say do something, no, because I've made my own rules. I'm not following what you say, I've had to make my own. And so that's a hard thing to deal with. I tell people that is it's one of the ways in the world that we can start creating narcissistic tendencies in children. And narcissistic tendencies are not the tendencies we want our kids to have. And so it's not about quantity. It doesn't mean you're always beside them doing stuff. It's just when you get those moments, make them count. Those of you who have kids in middle school, high school, or out doing sports, they get home late at night. Instead of asking them to do their homework, talk. Just talk. Hey, how was your day? What did, how was volleyball? How was basketball? Hey, you know what? What do you want to do this weekend? Start talking to me when I get home. Not, is your homework done? Hurry up, because you got to go to bed in 5 minutes. That's not going to work. We got to make the time count with our kids. And the more we're distracted, the harder that is. So that's just something to think about. The next type of parenting that we're dealing with in the United States at a big rate is the helicopter parents. Over-parenting. Bulldozer parents. What else do we call this type? Smother mothers. There's a lot of terms for it. Basically, it's this weird idea that we got to protect our children and bubble wrap them against everything. Parents, I'm going to tell you right now, your children have to fail and they have to struggle in life. We only get better as human beings through struggles and challenges. It doesn't mean they're all miserable. But as a parent, what happens is if your child screws it up, your child makes a mistake, it's not your job to get them out of it, it's your job to teach them how to get back up. Our job as parents is when our kids struggle, we don't stand in front of them or behind them, we stand beside them. And this is how we get ourselves back up. Parents, the one thing you need to realize is making mistakes and screwing up and having challenges in life is life. Being taught how to get back up is living. The problem we have with this type right now is these are the kiddos that are growing up and hitting adolescence, and they're at the highest risk of anxiety, depression, and suicide. Because I have no resiliency. If everything's been covered for me and done for me, I don't know how to be resilient. And that is one of the worst ways to live as a human being as an adult. You will never try anything, you're scared to do anything, you just live you try to keep yourself in a bubble, and you keep yourself because you're scared to go try something in case it doesn't work out. That's a terrible way for human beings to live. There's sometimes you gotta be in front of your kids and protect them, I get it. I was the papa bear every now and then. But then there's times that I had to be distracted and I had to let them figure it out. You see the balancing act we have? It is hard being a parent, is it not? It is agonizing some days to be a parent. But it's finding that balance is what we need to look at. And so just some interesting tidbits. This is a new type of parenting they're studying. Oh, I don't know if to put it in there or not. I didn't put it in there. There's
That's
a
okay.
new type. We're not gonna cover it because it's just coming out, but it's not a very good one. But we don't see it much right now in the United States. They're starting to see it a little more. It's actually called emotional incest. It's when parents treat their children a little too much like a spouse rather than a child. You're a little too close with your child. You share a little too much with your child, and you do a lot of things like that, and it's causing some mental health issues for the kiddos that are coming from parenting styles like that. So interesting stuff. Parents, the more I move, the more I learn. The less I move, the less I learn. Your children have to move. You know the number one homework there is now? This is cool. You'll like this. Realize that I love brain research because it kind of makes us think about what we've done for 100+ years. Homework. You ever hear homework?
Yes.
So, do you know what the best type of homework for your kid is?
None.
Once they get home from school, within 4 hours of them getting home from school, they need at least 45 minutes of vigorous exercise. That 45 minutes of vigorous exercise will allow their brain to intake and remember more of what they were taught that day than any amount of homework that could be assigned to them. But it's gotta be 45 minutes of vigorous exercise within 4 hours of coming home. So if your kids are in sports, awesome. You know, get them out there, play soccer, do whatever. But if they're just coming home and sitting with their homework and sitting at a table for 3 or 4 hours, we're in trouble. Not to mention, that's stress. Probably more for you. Anybody? You ever kids ever hit a grade level where they're needing your help with homework and you can't help anymore? I top out at 5th grade math. I tell people myself, I was like, I don't know, you need to listen better in class. I don't know how to do this anymore. So parents, here's what we know, some medical research that came out. Your child's ability to focus and ability to remember information are directly linked to the amount of oxygen in their bloodstream at the time of learning. What's the quickest way to increase oxygen in your child's bloodstream? Move, which is why play outside is so important. Not to mention, think about my social skills. If I'm outside on the playground or playing with my friends outside, my oxygen levels are up, my focus is there. I am learning social skills, interacting with people at a higher rate than any other time. Isn't that cool? And so, it's fascinating what we tend to know and how our brain learns. So, nature, by the way, is your friend. Parents, if you're struggling with screen time in your kids, I will give you another piece of advice. As soon as they get off that screen, if you can get them outside, it will bring their systems back to a baseline quicker. So if they're on that screen for hours on end, let's say they do have a lot of homework and it is on a screen, at all costs, if you can get them just outside. I mean, worst case scenario, sit them outside with the screen to do their homework. Something, because at least that nature's gonna help regulate or not let things get out of control. Nature is our friend. We already talked about your kids should be outside about 3.5 hours a day for proper brain development and strengthening. Our kiddos are not there. Us adults, you know what yours is? About 1.5 to 2 hours a day is recommended for us. And probably lots of us don't get there either. Vitamin D, we're finding vitamin D issues with our kids right now in the United States. Where do we get vitamin D from? Sun. And I hate to break it to you, supplements are not as good as the actual thing. And so vitamin D, a couple of things. Anybody hear of ADD, ADHD? Yeah, did you realize the research we did in Canada? We found out, some medical doctors and neuroscientists did some research. They found out 20 minutes of me being outside walking around is equivalent to taking my pharmaceutical drug. Isn't that cool? I grew up outside. I have ADD, it's bad. And by the way, for anybody in here who has a child with ADD, I'm just gonna share something with you. It's been my superpower. It's been one of the greatest things I have ever dreamt of having in my entire life. What I've been able to do with ADD is off the charts. But I had good parents and good teachers that helped me figure out how to use it. I wasn't on medication, but they helped me figure out how to use it, but I am outside a lot, not gonna lie. I am outside a lot and I drink a lot of coffee. Coffee actually helps me keep it at bay. The caffeine has an opposite effect to people like me in my brain. It allows me to focus, not get ramped up. Isn't that cool? I know. It's terrible for always having to go to the bathroom, but other than that, it's good. So, I talked about the new homework. Parents, these are my favorite two subjects in the world. You want better brain health, you want better brain strengthening, you want better academics, you want better behavior, art, and music. I will tell you right now, 45 minutes of art, 45 minutes of PE, and 45 minutes of music, they will do more for your child's brain and academics and behavior than I, as a gen ed teacher, could have done in 6.5 hours. Isn't that great? So parents, do not let them take music and art out of your schools. Those are our saviors. Music and art are important. And so, lots of things to consider. Now, another type of puzzle. You ready? Word search puzzles. Parents, I want you to take a look. Read what it says, but pay attention to this bottom portion as you're reading and see if you notice something. Interesting, isn't it? By the way, we're going to add a couple of puzzles to this one. It isn't just word searches right now. I was just reading more research, Sudoku, and crossword puzzles. So word search, crossword puzzles, Sudoku are kind of all lumped into this type of puzzle. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but this is just an example of a word search that you can do with your kids. Parents, you can do letter searches. Take a magazine or a newspaper and just have your kid, if they're working on letter A this week, find letter A. Highlight it in a magazine or a newspaper. If you got older kids, teach them to sit down and do some of these at night. Rather than look at a screen at night, do a puzzle or two at night before you go to bed. By the way, screens should be off at least an hour and a half to 2 hours before they go to bed. Or you start affecting their melatonin. Well, a whole lot of other things, but melatonin's a big one right now. So, just some things to think about. Maze puzzles are some of my favorites also. Maze puzzles are actually really good for behavior. I'll give another one. Parents, if you work on any child's behavior and social emotional skills, card games and maze puzzles. Card games are awesome. Play a game of cards. One of the best card games to play if you're working on my behavior is called Uno. Anybody? Mm-hmm. You ever do the pick up four and watch a kid lose their ever-loving mind? Or maybe you lose yours? I don't know. Have you seen Uno Extreme? It's like pick up 10. I don't have the ability to keep my emotions at bay for that one. So, just some things to consider, some mazes, different types, different things. You can buy those books. I just stuck it in there to freak your brain out a little bit. All right, some last puzzles up here, math puzzles. Now, parents, math puzzles are amazing for developing all those types of math skills. We're also dealing with kids who are not liking things like math in school. I don't like math. How many of you are that person? If I say if you like math, raise your hand if you like math. Yeah, it's about 30% if I'm lucky in every group I ask. And I tell people, guess what? It's not the math you hate. It's how it was taught. That's everything to do with it. We have content aversion because of how it's taught to us and how it's introduced to us. If it is not taught to us or introduced to us in the way our brain needs, we avoid that content. Our brain loves knowledge. That's what our brains are built for. The only way our brain does not like knowledge is if the people trying to teach us knowledge don't know how to teach our brain the right way. I'll shut it off. Isn't that interesting? And we've all had that teacher in our lifetime that we did not like, remember? Didn't learn a whole lot from that person, did we? Some of us are still in therapy, probably trying to forget some of them. But we remember the good ones. So warm up, let's see if you can figure this out. You can work with somebody at your table. Using only addition, how can you add 8 eighths to get to the number 1,000? So my math people in here, it's a challenge, dude. You have 8 eighths. How do you add them together to get to 1,000? I'll give you about 20 seconds so we get this one figured out. I like how some people are writing it down, trying to figure it out. Very nice.
There is a real answer. Just
oh yeah, there is. Sorry, you probably Googled it on your phone already. All right, you want to show? There you go. All right, and so the next one is a visual.
Ugh.
All I'm going to say is this. What has to change? Like her.
Yeah, that's it.
What is it?
Yellow circle?
On number 6, the circle needs to be yellow. Yep. Very good. Nice work.
Ah.
All right, doodles and droodles, parents, drawing. Please have your kids draw in color as much as possible at home, no matter how old they are. Writing, handwriting. We got to get handwriting back. We are missing out on so many neurosynapses because we don't handwrite anymore. It's scary. It is absolutely scary. We have now found out that we have about 2 generations of children who, because of technology, have not been taught the handwriting part of it, and the neurosynapses you don't get in place are ridiculous. And guess what? They're not going to get them in place anymore. Those of you who do not like math because you did not like how it was taught and you avoided it the rest of your life, you've missed out on neurosynapses and neural pathways that you will never get because you've never gone towards math the way you should. Isn't that interesting? The power we have. Parents, our kids should love to learn, not hate it. And so this is what we call a droodle. It used to be in newspapers back in the 50s and 60s, 70s. Reader's Digest had them. And all it is come up with a title for the picture. That's all you ask your kids. Show them random funny pictures and say, come up with a title. That's all you got to do. So you can come up with your own right now. I won't ask anybody for theirs, but I'll give you an idea. It's a spider doing a 1-arm push-up.
That's cute.
See? There's an idea for you.
Bad hair day.
Next one. So what we're going to do is this. I know I'm towards the end. I kind of had to shorten things out. But I'm going to do a couple more strong brain activities with you. So what I want you to do is at your table with a partner or 3 people. Okay? So you can have a partner or you can have a group of 3. So find that group right now. Partner or a group of 3. All right, and I'm going to teach you this strong brain activity, parents. You ready? Have you ever done rock, paper, scissors? All right. This is not it. So, well, it is kind of. It's rock, paper, scissors, math. So here's what you're going to do. So face your partner or look at your group of 3, and what you're going to do is this. You're going to go rock, paper, scissors. And on math, you hold out any number of fingers. First person to add up all the fingers and give the answer wins that round. So, you ready? Best out of 3. See how you do. Go.
You can see the competitiveness. Should I stop it for now?
You can leave it on there.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to do the reading one with them, bro.
Okay.
All right, everybody. There's an idea you can use for math. Parents, you can do subtraction. Do it with your child. And when it's subtraction, your child has to recognize the bigger amount and take away the smaller amount. You can do multiplication. Or if you got kids in high school, calculus or algebra, do what the calculus or algebra teacher taught me to do. Exponents. Square it and add it or cube it and add it. That is way above my pay grade, but if you can handle that, you go after it. So, there's another content area that I am near and dear to, is reading. Anybody hear of it? Parents, let me share something with you about reading to round out our day today. Reading is literally the hardest thing the human brain has to learn in its lifetime. Let me get that sunk in again. Learning how to read is the hardest thing the human brain ever has to learn. So if your child right now is reading anyway, you better encourage them. You better go home and tell them, look, and I don't care if they are a 7th grader reading on a 1st grade level. If they are reading in any way, shape, or form, parents, I need to hear out of your mouth, I am proud of you. You literally have just learned the hardest thing you will ever have to learn the rest of your life. Let's keep going. And I tell parents, our kids need to hear this. Unfortunately, we live in a state that thinks every kid should be reading by kindergarten. No. Parents, you realize that the only thing that's going to predict your child's reading outcome is actually what you did at home from birth to age 5. Parents, you have the number one onset of getting kids ready to read. The more books they're exposed to, the more print they're exposed to, the more fun they have with print from birth to age 5. When they come to school for formalized instruction, their brain will be more ready to learn reading. They'll learn it quicker than their peers. But if I haven't had much print, I haven't had much exposure, or reading isn't coveted or looked at something fun and great to do, I'm probably going to struggle with reading. By the way, to learn how to read involves 7 parts of your brain. All 7 parts have to simultaneously be connected and talking to each other to be a reader. Some of those parts of the human brain, for most of us, aren't developed until probably mid-elementary. Some of us have it developed sooner, others don't. Learning how to read is not an age thing at all. Learning how to read solely depends on the parts of my brain being built up, strong enough, and developed enough, and interconnected enough to read. It is different for every human being that walks this earth. Stop comparing your kids' reading abilities to other children. When I came here from Canada, I'm not going to lie, I was appalled. You want kids to do what, when? Like, do you know how ridiculous that is? I'll give you an example. I did not fully learn how to read until 6th grade. Where would I be in the school system right now? Where would I be? I'd be in special ed. I'd be in hours of tutoring. I'd be this, and this. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a PhD. I do brain research for a living. I travel the world. I go all over the place teaching people about how the brain works. I'm glad I grew up in a country that doesn't care about when you learn how to read. They care about that you learn how to read sometime eventually. You just get supported until you do it. Parents, your job at home is support your kids. No matter what the grades look like, no matter what test scores look like, you need to be at home showing your kids how wonderful reading is. Your field trips, go to Barnes & Noble. Take them to a bookstore. Encourage them. Let them pick out whatever it is they want to read. If I don't read very well, you take me to Barnes & Noble and I want to pick out this scientific book that's this thick, what do you let me do? Get it, because that's what I'm motivated to read. That's what I'm excited about looking at, and I have to be motivated to read. Learning how to read, 50% of us learning how to read is our emotions towards print. 50%. If I'm not vested in reading and I don't like print and I don't like to read, I will never read. I have to love it. Cereal boxes, comic books are actually the #1 intervention. If your child struggles with reading or has dyslexia, comic books and graphic novels are the best thing we got going right now. Comic books actually are the upper echelon for literature in our world. You realize that comic books per 1,000 words have more novel words than any other literature that exists. Comic books are also the hardest to follow because of how they maneuver all over the place, and your brain has to comprehend, solid comprehension to make it through a comic book. When I got my reading degree, we were taught that comic books are if you want to see if your kid's a solid reader, read a comic book and it can tell you what happened. That is the upper echelon of reading that exists. Isn't that cool? Comic books and graphic novels are awesome. Cereal boxes, billboards, who cares what it is? Reading is reading. If your child you drive by a McDonald's sign, McDonald's! They're reading. Picking up a piece of paper like this and having to get through it in order for you to say they're a reader is incorrect. Parents in here, if your children are young and they pick up a book and they see a picture and tell you a story about the picture, guess what that is? That's reading. It's interesting how we've kind of gotten weird about what reading actually entails. So parents, encourage your kids. By the way, the #1 thing to do to build up their ability to read is the corpus callosum. The white matter between the 2 hemispheres of the brain is what connects all those parts of the area of the brain so they can talk at the same time. If your child has a weak corpus callosum, you're in trouble. What I'm seeing with a lot of our kids now is the best way to build up the corpus callosum is crossing your midline. You have a midline, you got to cross it as much as you can. I'll see a lot of kids, parents, quick way to decide if your kid's going to be a good reader or not, put something across the table and ask them, reach across and give that to mommy or daddy. If they turn their whole body to pick it up and give it to you, that is a red flag. They're going to struggle with reading. Or if they do this, they pick it up with this hand, transfer it, and give it to you this way. If they are not crossing their midline with their limbs, their legs, whatever, we got a problem. Because that means the corpus callosum probably is not going to be strong enough to interconnect all those areas of the brain needed for reading. So parents, sports, playing outside, riding bikes, playing instruments, just do this every now and then with them and giggle about it as you're walking down a mall. Helps them out. Sound good? Y'all, you've been great this morning. I got to get you on your way because it's 10 o'clock. I tried to cover what I could as quick as I could. I appreciate you. If there's anything you need, you let me know. I'll stick around for a few minutes if you want to ask questions. But that's it.